is the biggest issue, in your opinion, facing Ward 1 today?
So the biggest issue facing Ward 1 today, I would say, is constituent services. What I usually hear is people don't feel they're being heard and their views and voices are not being addressed when it comes to constituent services. So, we talk a lot about snow removal and snow plowing, but infrastructure, sidewalks, noise issues, trash removal, and public safety. Constituent services have to be addressed first and foremost. This is what everyone in this livable city who is sitting down here, this is what they go home to. This is their everyday life. The bigger, wider types of issues, they matter, but they don't matter as much. Constituent services matter to everyone in this ward.
People want to see their roads plowed and the trash picked up and stuff like that. Do you support or oppose the Fane Tower, and why?
So I oppose the Fane Tower. For me, the reason why has more to do with the fact that I couldn't get some answers that I and others asked specifically about the pricing and where we were going to get the people coming in from there. And I felt like if I couldn't get those answers, then I wasn't really understanding if this was going to be a successful project for Providence, not a successful project for a developer. Are we going to get what is supposed to come to us? It didn't really work into as much with the design and all of that. I was a little bothered by the fact that some of the green space, that was set aside. There is a comprehensive plan that people worked on for years and years. And although it shouldn't be set in stone necessarily, I think that in this particular instance, it just wasn't a fit.
So that being said, more than half of the 195 land is vacant. Isn't Fane as one of the developers willing to put something there? What would you rather see on the 195 land, and how would you, if you can in any way, make that a reality?
So what I'd rather see is that we make sure that Fane Tower doesn't become the message we send to other developers. That's where my concern comes. I don't want other developers outside of our city and our ward feeling it's going to be such a struggle if we don't agree with everything you want. That's important. We have to have the development. And it does have to fit the character that we have, but we have to make sure that we blend the two together. Development and character have to be able to work. So it's all about creating the partnerships and the relationships and the unity within the developer and the residents so that we find middle ground. There didn't seem to be a lot of middle ground here on this particular Fane project, but I don't think that that means other developers can't find middle ground, because we're going to have development. There are different parts and different places within the I95 development corridor that sometimes a development like Fane would fit and would have an easier time. So I think it's important that we do all of that when we're speaking to people and letting them know that we want you here, and there might be better places that we feel are going to accommodate what you'd like and also address what we would have.
Anything specific you'd like to see on the 195 land?
I'd like to see a corridor of small businesses. I look at this as almost a restaurant row, we'll call it. So Providence is a capital city. Okay, destination city, world-class city. We have to create the destination and execute it at a world-class level. So when I travel around and I go to an area and everyone says, go to this street, go to this area. Why? Because I can go, I can park, or I can get there however I do, and I can go and have my coffee, I can go across the street and shop, I can later go have something to eat, a beverage, and I can walk around it. That's that livable neighborhood type city we have. Also, when you create those kind of small business corridors, look at it. Let's say you put 20 small businesses there and they all have 20 employees. That's 400 employees. Imagine if someone came along, a developer or a business, and said, I'm going to bring 400 jobs to this area. We'd be all over them. But the small business owners, we're not all over them. But if you combine us all together, we're going to create the same economic engine and job creation that 400 employees from one business would come. And sometimes these jobs are the only jobs people have during a difficult economy. It's the one that keeps them able to live here and survive.
Speaking of businesses, you're obviously a business owner in the nightclub industry. Nightclub safety is a major issue in Providence. The city council is considering 3 nightclub reforms. Right. You, unlike the other candidates, are in a sort of unique position here because you were on the special committee that helped make these recommendations. The ordinances that have been proposed are changing the closing times in certain zones, requiring video surveillance in clubs, and codifying specific penalties for offenses and repeated offenses. So first of all, do you support or oppose each of these ordinances? And then what are your ideas for improving nightlife safety in Providence?
So first I will say I support them. Now, when we dig deeper into them, there are some parts of them that we have to have a little further discussion on, just tweaking them for you. So the public safety portion of our nighttime economy is what is unfortunately not giving us the value of the nighttime economy. People outside of here see bad Providence, bad nightlife. I was the founder of the Providence Responsible Nightlife Organization, which has been around for 8 years. What it is it's other like-minded business owners in the nighttime economy getting together and saying, how can we work together with our city and our neighbors and our universities and our administration for a safer nightlife economy, which benefits everyone, okay? That being said, public safety really has to come first, even before profits. You're really not going to last very long if you don't put public safety first. So partnerships and relationships with your neighbors. I'll take the noise issue, okay? When I had a noise issue, I didn't wait for my neighbors to have to call someone on me. I had already gone to them and said, here's my card, here's who I am. Every weekend, we actually did this. Give me a call. Call me during the night. I'll lower the volume if it's outside. I will work with you. This had worked wonderfully. They felt that they had somebody to go to. So that's that partnership relationship one. That's noise. Noise is quality of life. Same thing with safety. What can we do to make sure it's safety? I've been working on some initiatives of what's called a Universal Best Practices Handbook. Why that might be important is I've lived by it here. We've been here for 10 years. That includes a way for someone to understand what's expected of you, okay? And also how to do it. So when you come into a business in the city, if you were handed a handbook that said to you, hey, these are all the ordinances, these are all the things we require of you, you kind of know ahead of time. Instead of being reactive, we're being proactive about this. It also will help you introduce you to other business owners here who might find a way to somehow save you some money on this when we're talking about camera systems. I also talked about the police details. Now I have a police detail voluntary Friday and Saturday. It's costly, but it's a great measure. It makes everyone feel safe and confident.
But police say that they don't have enough officers
Correct.
to give everyone a police detail. That's not a solution they're a big fan of,
Right.
to have police at every single nightclub in the city.
So on that note, which is exactly what I'm getting to on that is, since we have limited resources, we have to find ways to utilize the resources more effectively. So what I was thinking was we could have almost grouping nighttime police details. So instead of me having one and the one around the corner and the one 2 blocks down, maybe we could all get together as business owners, find a way to work this out with the administration and law enforcement, that we hire a set of police detail that monitors an area. That's an additional layer of protection. It's not as much of a burden on some of the small business owners who can't afford it. It also doesn't utilize and use up the limited resources we have, because we have to make sure our law enforcement police are able to be in the neighborhoods. They have to be able to be patrolling neighborhoods and residents get in touch with them when they need them. We can't have all the resources being used just to protect the nighttime issues that are going on. And that's kind of what's been going on, and that's kind of what the perception is.
All right, moving on to taxes.
Yes.
Last year, the city council...
I don't like them.
As a business owner, that is
No
the
one likes
answer
them.
I would expect you to give. The city council last year unsuccessfully proposed this tiered tax structure. Right. It was opposed by the 3 East Side councilors, including the Ward 1 councilman who recently stepped down. Right. The council is going to try again. They're having a new progressive tax structure study commission that's meeting for the first time this week. Would you support any sort of progressive or tiered property tax structure in Providence? So
I've done my homework on this, and I am trying to break it down as a business owner into just what the cost actually is going to be for this and for the people that it's going to affect. Right now, I would say to you that I would probably not be supporting that. I do want to talk more and find out really where the benefits are really going to lie and really what the costs are going to be. Can we have some level of that? Yes. The numbers that we use, these percentages, the 24%, the 15%, over and above 350,000 and above and below, those all have to be worked out. This is where I feel a lot of discussion has to go on this. There are a lot of people who feel that they are providing what they should and contributing in a manner that they should, and sometimes maybe feel that they're being penalized in a way when they're asked to give more. We can't always just go to someone and say you have to give more. So I think it is definitely worth talking about, and some form of that probably can work. But I would say right now, the one that I read, when I did the numbers quickly and saw that what the levels would be, it's a burden on someone. We can't just assume because someone has an expensive home that they absolutely have all of the money to afford a raise in taxes. It's really not fair to think that also.
So there could be some sort of a progressive tax structure, though, that you would
Absolutely.
support.
I never believe that one proposal is all wrong and the other way is all right. There's definitely that middle ground that you have to find that everyone feels comfortable with giving a little and taking a little.
How would you improve Kennedy Plaza, which is in Ward 1, and make it a place where more people want to go, use more public transportation?
So the Kennedy Plaza issue has been around a long time, and I know that things have been done to improve Kennedy. First of all, it's been made aesthetically very appealing. We have the statues and the flowers, and we have the kids zone, I call it, which was a really good thing. And I see kids using that in families. So you want to make it that. We have some small businesses in there, so it's a place you want to go. The issue is, what do we do about people who are displaced? How far do we push them out? And when do we say, well, this is a nice place and you're not welcome? That's not really the answer. So what would I do? I would address that problem and that issue and that concern first. And
are you talking about, homeless people who...
Yeah, so homeless, or maybe, if they're not just homeless, but some people that don't really have the resources to, or are just not working maybe.
They don't have anywhere to go during the day.
Yeah.
They hang out there, yeah.
Right, and I understand the challenges of that on both sides, but I think the way to go is we are doing well with making it a place you want to be. We do have some targeted additional public safety concerns, and we are addressing them. But now we have to get down to the fact that sometimes we're really just pushing some people out. And we're going to keep pushing them out, and where do they end up? So that becomes into the bigger picture. We have to talk about, affordable housing and places for people to be able to be during the day, that services can be provided for them also.
The Jewelry District Association has opposed some of the two-way bike lanes going in Ward 1. It's part of this Great Streets plan.
Yes.
There's been controversy about it in other wards
Yes.
as well, about, narrowing the road for cars to make room for the two-way bike lanes. Where do you stand on this?
So with some of the streets, it becomes a challenge for you right down here. Chestnut. This particular area has a lot of egress out from the courthouse, and then we're also building that garage with 1,200 some odd spaces. So I watched just today, as I was driving through, someone who might not have been used to it, driving over them and almost like being startled by driving over the middle because they're not sure what they're driving over. We have to have a balance of them. I haven't been involved in all the traffic studies, and I understand why we want them and why we need them, because we are getting away, some people, from using cars. It's okay. I'm an old guy. I use a car. I go everywhere with a car. But that's not how everyone lives. So you create this livable city that appeals to everyone and works for everyone. They haven't received much favorability around here. So when that happens, there's going to be a lot of unhappy people going on, and that's not the way to do anything in the city. I also get concerned with the fact that although we're talking about bike lanes, and that's great, I'd like to talk a little bit more about our handicap accessible, livable city. We need more parking spaces for handicap accessible vans, not just handicap accessible spaces. I've been working with an organization called RAMP, and I try to make accessibility foremost in my business, and in my life. We're also, as a city, kind of keeping out a large percentage of people who would be feeling comfortable and easy to come here. So every time we do the bike lanes, we may not be able to also do the accessibility spaces we need. So We have very limited real estate is what I'm saying.
Yeah, are you referring to, so the parking, just so I understand, the parking spaces that are next to the bike lanes? Because sometimes it's the bike lanes, then you have the parking spaces in the middle, and then the cars on the other side.
Yes.
Are you saying that the parking spaces don't have enough room for a ramp?
So some of them, so I have spoken to some of the people in the accessibility community, which said that sometimes a handicap parking space doesn't accommodate a handicap van parking space.
Okay.
So there's levels of accessibility, and we have to have an eye to that also. So since we have a little bit of real estate is what I'm going to say to do all these things, I want to make sure we keep an eye to that also. Right now, I would say it's a challenge, and we really need to make sure everyone understands why this is a good thing. Look, Providence of today isn't supposed to look like the Providence of tomorrow forever. So change is going to be difficult. People are going to have to know that we are going to disagree, but it's okay to disagree. I meet with some of the people who are very interested. I have a lot of young people in my life because of the industry I'm in. They don't drive cars. They take the scooters, they take the bikes. I hear them every day what they want. People care about the environment. It doesn't mean older people don't care about the environment, but young people are a little more focused on it. They're going to be in this world a little longer than us, and they're worried about later in life and their children. So it is important that we discuss the issue with lessening, the emissions and cars and the use of them.
If you had a choice, on which committee would you like to serve on the city council?
I would like to serve on two, public safety and finance.
Why?
Well, public safety, because I feel I have a real grasp of public safety in my industry, and with the experience of years that I have, I think that I can bring some additional clarity to it. I work with it every day. I see the value of public safety every day, and I understand the mechanisms of why, but I also understand the challenges to our community. When I was on the board of Rhode Island Pride, not everyone views law enforcement in a manner that others do, which means the most important thing to do is to get us all together to understand why law enforcement and public safety are important and valuable. The other is Finance Committee. I would like to try to attempt to infuse running our city similar to running a small business. Money comes in, money goes out. We have to balance the books. We have to make sure we can afford everything. We don't necessarily buy things that we can't afford at this time. We have the long-term goals and the short-term goals. Managing people, managing the infrastructure of the city like you would manage the infrastructure of your building. So how I look at it is, sometimes I hate to say this, but if I ran my business like we run a city, I'd be out of business. I get it. It's a small business. But the city is a business. It's still a business. We still have patrons who are our residents. We still have people we want to bring into here. So we want to line out the door coming into Providence, and we want to line out the door in front of our businesses and our residences trying to get in. That's what we're selling here. We're selling a livable city that we want you to come work and play in.
What is one piece of legislation you'd like the General Assembly to pass that would affect Providence?
One piece. So
it doesn't have to exist already.
Yeah.
You can invent one.
I do think I would like to have a carve out for a capital city when it comes to the nighttime economy. So I'll use the fact that I'm not necessarily for bottle service, but what I'm saying is it's a state law that affects a downtown city and maybe a place like Newport more than it would in a smaller town or a smaller ward area. So I'd like to make sure that we look at Providence and downtown Providence as a capital city, a world-class generator, someone we want to pull in, and maybe we can make sure that some of the state laws that work on those levels work specifically as carve-outs when there's a portion of our city that we need to draw people in a different manner, and we need to have them live and enjoy in a different manner and level.
So potentially legalizing bottle service in Providence.
So I use bottle service because that's the hot topic. I use that because it's the state law, and the confusion was this. The confusion was, why can't we do bottle service? It's not up to the city council. It's not up to the mayor. It's not up to us. It's not up to law enforcement. It is a state law, and it's an overall state law because I understand why some of the other cities and townships don't want it. That's why I call it a carve-out. Can it work? So you go to Vegas, you go to these other large cities. What do they have there? Well, they may not have it everywhere else, but they'll have it in a specific area where they know it's going to promote growth and economic growth, and it's going to create a draw for you. We're supposed to be drawing people into this city. We're supposed to say, where do you want to go? Hey, come to Providence, right? You're supposed to come here. You're supposed to want to spend your money here. You're supposed to want to enjoy yourself here. You're supposed to want to maybe move here and live here and work here. So I think we have to look at our city and our wards and areas in ways that are not all uniform. And I know the state has to make a lot of decisions, that are uniform, that work for everyone also. So what I'd call them is carve-outs, if we can.
Would you serve full bottles of liquor at your establishments?
So I do not do that. When we were told we couldn't do it, I found another way. I spent 3 hours in the city solicitor's office going through a 12-page document which had one line in it. Okay, one line that basically stated you could not sell liquor, distilled spirits, except for wine, champagne, and acquadiente. And they did that so that the restaurants could still serve you a bottle of wine, the right way to do it. I have not necessarily seen that it didn't work for me. What I'm using it as an example of is that it is just a general broad law, and it's not really that I want to have that because there are public safety concerns with it. This is where the problem happened. So when we used to do it, when we kind of did it and it wasn't a hot topic, it had to be locked away. It had to be served by a server. So really what it was is, it's a cachet. People go out, they want to sit in an area where there's a sofa and feel special. And how do they feel special? Everyone watches this shiny bottle and this light up ice bucket that comes out and says, hey, tonight's my night. That's what that really has a value for. You do have to make sure when you're serving a bottle, which is a full bottle, which, it's going to be about 32 ounces, okay? So let's just say you're serving 2 ounces in a drink. That's 16 drinks. You can't have 3 people sitting in there, okay? You have to be smart about this. You have to make sure people know that this is for what? Are there 10 people here? Sure. What are they going to have? 2.5 drinks each? Okay. This is going to work right. So you have to be smart to make sure you're not over-serving. You also cannot let that bottle exist so that overconsumption, underage drinking, and it becomes a weapon. Those are the 3 problems with bottle service. They can be managed. There are a lot of people who know how to manage them. But unfortunately what happens is, a few bad actors happen, the broad stroke of the brush comes, stop everything. Okay, it's not the end all be all. But if you talk to some of the other people in this industry, they really feel they need it. They feel it's a draw. They feel it's a cachet. They feel it's something that makes a capital city work and nighttime businesses work.